The lobstermen of Stonington, Maine, used to make good money. Then they started making great money, and somehow every single one of them ended up broke. Here's what happened. Back in the 1980s, the lobster boats working the coast of Maine were modest. 32 feet, maybe 36. Diesel engine, a couple of guys, traps stacked on deck. A lobsterman could pay off his boat in a few good seasons, bank the rest, and live like a man who owned his life. Then the lobster population exploded, prices held, and the money started rolling in. So what did the smartest, hardest-working lobstermen do with their windfall? They bought bigger boats. Makes sense, right? Bigger boat, more traps, more lobster, more money. One guy upgrades to a 42-footer. He's hauling more traps, making more runs, and suddenly he's the guy at the dock everyone's talking about. Except now, the other lobstermen are looking at his boat every single morning, and they're not thinking, good for him. They're thinking, I need a bigger boat too, or I'm the guy with the small boat. So the next guy upgrades, 45 feet. Then someone else goes to 48. Then somebody drops $500,000 on a boat with a flying bridge and radar equipment that could probably track a submarine. Within a decade, the entire fleet had upgraded. Everybody was hauling more lobster than ever. And here's the part that should stop you cold. Nobody was any richer. Because bigger boats don't just cost more to buy. They cost more to fuel, more to insure, more to dock, more to maintain. The loans got bigger, the bank payments got bigger, the lobster catch went up, sure, but so did the price of doing business, and so did the price of just showing up to work every day looking like you belonged out there. Marine economists actually studied this. They found that as the fleet's total horsepower and boat size roughly doubled over 20 years, the lobstermen's actual take-home income barely moved. Some years it went down. The lobsters didn't get any more valuable. The men just got better at spending exactly as fast as they earned. One old-timer put it to a researcher in a sentence that deserves to be carved into a wall somewhere. Everybody thought they were getting ahead, but really they were just running next to each other faster. Now stop and ask yourself something uncomfortable. What's your bigger boat? Because you don't need to own a lobster boat to be part of this fleet. You just need a paycheck, a neighborhood, a group text, and eyes. This is the thing nobody warns you about when you're 24 and broke and dreaming about someday making six figures. You picture the number. You picture the feeling. You do not picture the fleet. You don't picture the guy at the barbecue mentioning his Roth IRA contribution like it's a personality trait. You don't picture your college roommate's Instagram from the Overwater Bungalow in Bora Bora, captioned, "No bad days," while you're eating a sad desk lunch calculating whether you can afford the good guacamole. You don't picture your brother-in-law upgrading his truck the same month you got your raise, so that somehow your good news feels smaller by Sunday dinner. Nobody pictures the fleet. Everybody just pictures the boat. And this, right here, is the ego tax. It's not on your W-2. The IRS doesn't have a line for it, but it gets collected every single month automatically, whether you notice it or not. It's the invisible percentage of your income that doesn't go toward your life. It goes toward looking like your life is going better than it actually is. You make more. You buy more. The people around you make more, buy more. Now your baseline has moved and you're back where you started, except with bigger payments and less room to breathe. Same anxiety. Nicer car in the driveway of the house you're stressed about affording. Here's the part that should really bother you. The Stonington lobstermen were, individually, making completely rational decisions. Every single upgrade made sense on its own. More traps genuinely means more lobster. A better boat genuinely means safer trips in rough weather. Nobody was being an idiot, but add up 100 rational individual decisions made by people all watching each other and you get one deeply irrational fleet. That's not a math problem. That's a psychology problem wearing a calculator. And it's the exact same mechanism sitting inside your bank account right now, whether you're making $40,000 a year or $400,000. The number on your pay stub goes up. Something in your chest quietly says, prove it. And you spend the next 18 months proving it to people who, statistically speaking, are far too busy worrying about their own boat to actually notice yours. This is why you can meet someone pulling in six figures who still feels the exact same low-grade financial panic they felt back when they were making 40 grand and splitting a two-bedroom with 3 roommates and a suspicious amount of ramen. The number changed, the feeling didn't. Because the number was never the problem, the fleet was. So before we go any further, I want you to sit with one honest question, because everything else in this video depends on you actually answering it instead of skimming past it the way people skim past their own bank statements. Whose fleet are you racing in? And more importantly, is anybody in that fleet actually winning? Nobody is. That's the part that should really sit with you, not some people are winning and you're not. Nobody is. The guy with the 48-foot boat is lying awake doing math on his diesel bill. The guy at the barbecue with the Roth IRA speech is also making payments on a truck he test drove for fun and bought out of spite. The couple in the nicer house on your street didn't win the game. They just found a more expensive way to feel the same amount of broke you feel. And once you actually see that, something strange happens. The whole competition starts to look less like a race and more like a room full of people at a party, all quietly checking each other's shoes, convinced everyone else has it figured out, while every single person in that room is doing the exact same math in their head at the exact same time. Can I actually afford this life I'm performing? This isn't new, by the way. Americans have been financing the performance of success for a lot longer than Instagram has existed. Go back to the 1920s to furniture stores in cities like Chicago and Cleveland, and you'll find the invention of something that changed the entire psychology of the American paycheck, the installment plan. Before that, if you wanted a sofa, you saved up and you bought a sofa. Simple, boring, financially sane. But furniture retailers figured out something that would eventually reshape the entire country's relationship with money. People didn't actually want to wait. They wanted the sofa now and the guilt later. So stores started letting families take the furniture home for a small down payment and small weekly payments after that. It worked so well, it terrified some of the retailers themselves. One furniture executive at the time admitted in an internal company memo that customers were furnishing entire homes on payments they could barely afford just to keep up with what the neighbors already had in their front rooms. Living rooms became a status report. Your sofa was basically a press release about how well you were doing, whether or not it was true. And here's the twist nobody saw coming. The installment plan didn't just sell furniture. It taught an entire country a new emotional skill, how to feel rich while going into debt. That skill, once learned, doesn't stay in the living room. It spreads to cars, then to vacations, then to weddings, then eventually to a 30-year mortgage on a house slightly bigger than what any rational financial planner would recommend, purchased specifically because the house down the street just got a pool. We didn't invent lifestyle inflation, we just got better tools for it. Here's the mechanism, stripped all the way down, because I want you to actually see it instead of just nodding along. Human beings don't evaluate their financial life in absolute terms. Almost nobody sits down and asks, do I have enough money to live the life I actually want? Instead, the brain asks a much sneakier question. Do I have as much as the people I'm comparing myself to? That's it. That's the whole operating system running quietly in the background of nearly every purchase you've made in the last 5 years, which means your financial stress has almost nothing to do with your income and almost everything to do with your reference point. Move a guy making $70,000 a year from a small town in Ohio to a wealthy suburb outside San Francisco, and without changing a single number on his pay stub, you can make him feel poor for the first time in his life. Move a guy making $70,000 the other direction, into a town where that income makes him the most financially comfortable guy at church, and suddenly the exact same salary feels like winning. Same man, same paycheck, completely different bank of feelings. Because wealth was never measured against your bills, it was measured against your neighbors, and this is where the ego tax gets its claws all the way in. Because it doesn't just take your money, it takes your information. It makes you financially blind. You stop being able to tell the difference between what you actually need and what you need other people to see you have. Somewhere along the way, I want a nicer car, quietly turned into, I don't want to be the guy with the old car. And those two sentences sound similar, but they are financially, psychologically, and spiritually two completely different animals. One is a preference, the other is a tax bill. You're the one signing the check. There's a term economists have used for this, and I like it because it's blunt in a way most financial language refuses to be: conspicuous consumption. Spending money specifically so other people notice you spending it. It sounds a little insulting when you say it about yourself, doesn't it? Nobody wants to think of themselves as somebody buying things for an audience. But be honest for 1 second. How many purchases in your life were made in a completely private vacuum, with zero thought about who would see them, comment on them, or compare themselves to them? The furniture store executives from the 1920s knew exactly what they were selling. It wasn't sofas. It was the feeling of having arrived, available in convenient weekly installments. 100 years later, we've just changed the products. Same transaction, same ego, same invisible tax, deducted automatically from a paycheck that never had a chance to actually make you feel rich because it was never competing against your bills in the first place. It was competing against everyone else's furniture. And if you want to see how far back this goes and how personal it actually is, there's a cartoonist you've never heard of who accidentally gave this entire disease its name. His name was Arthur Momond, and in 1913 he moved into a fancy New York suburb with his wife, on a salary that could not remotely keep pace with his neighbors. Big houses, nice cars, weekend parties, and Momond, a struggling illustrator, spent himself into real financial trouble trying to look like he belonged there. At some point, he did something most people never do. He looked directly at his own behavior and thought, this is insane, and somebody should point it out. So he created a comic strip about a family constantly trying to outspend the family next door. He originally wanted to call it Keeping Up with the Smiths, after his actual neighbors. But he changed the name at the last minute because he didn't want to embarrass the real people who lived next to him. He called it Keeping Up with the Joneses instead. That comic strip ran in newspapers for 28 years. Millions of Americans read it every single week and laughed because they recognized themselves in it immediately. And here's the detail that should genuinely unsettle you. Mom and created one of the most famous phrases in American financial history by documenting his own personal bankruptcy in progress. He wasn't writing satire from a safe distance. He was living inside the joke while he wrote it. The man who named the disease had it worse than most of his readers. 110 years later, we don't call it the Joneses anymore. We call it a group chat. We call it a company Slack channel where somebody casually mentions their Peloton streak. We call it a cousin's wedding where the open bar quietly starts a four-way competition between siblings about whose gift said, "I've made it the loudest." Same disease, different neighbors, same guy standing in his own driveway, doing math he doesn't want to do, wondering how everyone else seems to be handling this so easily. Nobody's handling it easily, they just have better lighting. Here's where this gets genuinely dangerous though, and I want you to lean in for this part, because this is the piece most people never connect. The ego tax doesn't just cost you money in the moment, it costs you the one asset that actually builds wealth over a lifetime, and that asset is time. Money spent proving something today is money that will never get the chance to compound tomorrow. That's not a metaphor, that's arithmetic. A car payment isn't just $350 a month, it's $350 a month that could have grown quietly, patiently for 30 years into something that actually changes your life. But it doesn't get that chance because it went toward a vehicle that exists mainly to signal something to people sitting at red lights next to you. People who, statistically, are checking their own phones and couldn't care less what you drive. Think about what that actually means. Somewhere out there is a version of you 10 or 20 years from now who never gets to exist because the money that would have built that future got spent instead on convincing strangers you'd already arrived. You're not just paying a tax on your ego today, you're paying it on behalf of a future person who never got born financially. That version of you who could have retired at 58 instead of grinding to 70. That version of you who could have told your boss to take the job and shove it because you actually had options. That guy quietly got erased, one status purchase at a time, by a version of you that was more interested in looking free than actually becoming free. And this is the cruelest part of the whole arrangement. The people you're spending all this money to impress, most of them aren't even impressed. They're distracted. They're busy running their own version of this exact race, checking their own mirrors, doing their own quiet math in the driveway. Nobody's out there keeping a scoreboard of your success. They're too busy worrying about their own scoreboard, which, by the way, doesn't exist either. You're not paying a tax to an audience, you're paying a tax to a rumor. a rumor that somebody, somewhere, is watching and keeping score. And the wildest part is, deep down, most people already suspect this isn't true. They just haven't stopped spending long enough to sit with the silence and confirm it. So let's sit with it for a second. Right now, no purchase to make, no one watching, no group chat pinging. Because underneath the ego tax is a question most people spend their entire working life avoiding. If nobody was watching, what would you actually buy? What would you actually drive, wear, live in, drink on a Friday night? Take away the audience. And for a lot of people, the answer is almost embarrassingly modest. A smaller house in a quieter neighborhood, a 10-year-old truck that still runs fine, a vacation that's really just a week of doing nothing near water. That's it. That's the whole fantasy once you strip out the performance, which means the gap between the life you're financing and the life you'd actually choose isn't a money problem, it's an audience problem. And audiences, it turns out, are a lot cheaper to lose than to keep. Here's the shift that has to happen, and it's smaller than you'd think, but it changes everything downstream. Stop asking, what does this purchase say about me? And start asking, what does this purchase do for me? One question is about status, the other is about function. A watch that tells time is function. A watch that tells your coworkers you got a bonus is status. Both keep perfect time. Only one of them is quietly draining a future you haven't met yet. That's the behavior to stop, not spending. Spending isn't the enemy. Spending on a rumor is. Stop financing the opinion of people who, if you're honest with yourself, you wouldn't call for help if your car broke down at midnight. That's the real test, by the way. Before the next big purchase, ask yourself plainly, would this person show up for me at 2 a.m.? If not, why are they setting my budget? And here's what to start instead, because clarity without a next move is just a nicer form of anxiety. Start tracking one number nobody at the barbecue will ever ask about, your gap. The space between what you earn and what you spend. Not your salary, not your neighbor's salary, your gap. That gap is the only number that ever turns into freedom. It's the only number that compounds. It's the only number that 20 years from now decides whether you're still trading your Mondays for a paycheck or whether Monday just became a day like any other. Widen that gap by an inch, and you're not just saving money, you're buying back a future version of yourself that almost got erased a few minutes ago in this video. Every month you let that gap breathe a little wider is a month you're quietly uncanceling a retirement, uncanceling an option, uncanceling a version of your life where work is a choice instead of a sentence. The mental model to carry out of here is simple enough to remember standing in a car dealership with a salesman smiling at you like you're already family. Before every purchase that has an audience attached to it, ask, am I buying this or am I renting a feeling from a stranger who won't remember me in a week? Because that's what status spending really is. It's not ownership. It's a short-term lease on somebody else's approval, and the payments never stop, because the approval never actually arrives. The lobstermen up in Stonington are still out there, by the way. Still hauling traps at dawn, still making payments on boats that got bigger every decade while their bank accounts quietly stayed the same size. Some of them figured it out. The smart ones stopped watching the dock and started watching their own numbers. Same lobster, same ocean, completely different life, just because they stopped racing a fleet that was never actually going anywhere. You get to decide which lobsterman you are, the one still watching the dock, wondering whose boat got bigger this year, or the one who finally looked down at his own numbers and realized the race was optional the entire time. So here's a question, worth sitting with, longer than you sat with anything else in this video. If you stripped away every person who might be watching, would your money still be spent the same way? If the honest answer makes you a little uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is the most useful financial information you'll get all week. That's exactly the kind of question we dig into around here, the real, sometimes uncomfortable psychology behind why smart, hardworking people still feel broke at every income level. If that's the kind of thinking you want more of in your life, stick around. This is a place for people who'd rather understand their money than perform it. The dock will always be crowded. Your future doesn't have to be.